5 p.m., April 7, 1865, General Lee. The result of last week must convince you of the hopelessness of further resistance. I regard it as my duty to shift from myself the responsibility of any further effusion of blood by asking of you the surrender of that portion of the Confederate States Army known as the Army of Northern Virginia. Ulysses S. Grant.
On April 8th, Grant again flanked Lee's army and captured 2 trainloads of supplies. The Confederates were living on handfuls of parched corn. That night, Lee and his weary lieutenants gathered around a campfire near the little village of Appomattox Courthouse.
We met in the woods at his headquarters by a low-burning bivouac fire. There was no tent, no table, no chairs, no camp stools. On blankets spread upon the ground or on saddles at the roots of trees, we sat around the great commander, General John B. Gordon.
They were almost entirely surrounded, outnumbered nearly 5 to 1, without hope of resupply or reinforcement.
By sunrise, we had reached Appomattox Station, where we might cut Lee's retreat. Already we heard the sharp ring of the horse artillery. There was no mistake. Sheridan was square across the enemy's front, holding at bay all that was left of the proudest army of the Confederacy. It had come at last, the supreme hour.
April 9th was Palm Sunday. Lee ordered Gordon to make one more attempt at breaking out. At dawn, just outside Appomattox Courthouse, Gordon's men drove Federal cavalry from their positions and swept forward to the crest of a hill. Below them, a solid wall of blue was advancing, the entire Union Army of the James.
There is nothing left for me to do but to go and see General Grant, and I would rather die 1,000 deaths.
Shortly before noon, Lee dispatched a letter under a white flag into the Union lines. Grant was resting in a field, nursing a blinding headache. Suddenly, a horseman galloped up, at full speed, a reporter noted, waving his hat above his head and shouting at every jump. Grant opened the envelope, looked at it, then asked his friend General John Rawlins to read it aloud. Lee would surrender. Grant himself said nothing, betrayed no more emotion, a witness said, than last year's bird nest. But his headache had instantly disappeared.
No one looked his comrade in the face. Finally, Colonel Duff, chief of artillery, sprang upon a log and proposed 3 cheers. A feeble hurrah came from a few throats, when all broke down in tears.
Lee dispatched Colonel Charles Marshall to Appomattox Courthouse to find a suitable building in which he and Grant might meet. The streets were almost deserted. Marshall stopped the first civilian he happened to see, Wilmer McLean, who reluctantly agreed to loan the armies his house for the occasion.
By a singular coincidence, the meeting of Generals Lee and Grant took place in the house of Wilmer McLean, the same gentleman who, in 1861, at the Battle of Bull Run, had tendered his house to General Beauregard for headquarters. He removed from Manassas after the battle with the intention of seeking some quiet nook where the alarms of war could never find him.